had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information and that association to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information and that association to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital of people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital of people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information and that association to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital of people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information and that association to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital of people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole.
Welcome back to Automate Live. Once again, my name is Jana Martin. I'm the Media Production Manager for the Association of Advancing Automation, and I am honored to be joined by Claudia Valdez, the show director at Informa Markets for Expo Manufactura. Claudia, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Jana. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so excited. We both are in the trade show business. Of course, A3 is the host of Automate, and you are the host of Expo Manufactura in Mexico. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what that event is like?
Yeah, sure, I will. Well, Expo Manufactura is a trade show that we do in Monterrey in Mexico. And we have been doing this show for 28 years and editions. And well, we are very, very exciting. Every year that we do, we have had this year the show at the beginning of the year. So we are planning our show for next year, for 2025. And well, it's a show that we receive around, well, this year we had 500 exhibitors.
Wow.
So it was huge. Our biggest edition. Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, we are very proud and very happy with that result of this year.
We're going to dive in and talk more about all about it.
Yeah.
So let's just back up and paint the big picture and think about automation and manufacturing in Mexico. Why is an event like Expo Manufactura so important in that business community there?
Well, now in this moment of our country and the situation that we have, it's very important because of all this nearshoring that it's happening right now. We see a very good future for the next 8 years for the show, of course, and for the industry. And well, we have had this participation of automation and robotics since a couple of years ago, not a long time, but we want to increase also this participation because this is a very important part that the companies will need. No,
absolutely.
For all these nearshoring and new manufacturers that are installing right now in Mexico, no?
Absolutely. That's where the future of industry is going around the globe. Here in the U.S., obviously, we see all of these exhibiting companies here, but many of these companies have also a presence in Mexico already, and some of your big exhibitors there at Expo Manufactura you will find here on the show floor as well. Can you say a little bit more about what kind of companies you love to see exhibiting at Expo Manufactura, both in the past and in the future?
Okay, as brands?
Or exactly what they do and what kind of solutions they provide.
Okay, yes. Well, we have a lot of machinery from cutting, laser, 3D, CAD/CAM, softwares. Well, that's our principal now, and tools. No, and of course, for the future, we will have more presence of these automated robotics, also 3D printers, instrumentals, softwares, and all this software that can allow us to increase everything with the cloud and
absolutely
AI and everything.
We're in this special moment where the hardware of the robotics and the intelligent technology and the software is coming together to really help manufacturers around the globe. So let's think about the conference. What kind of people do you hope to attract to come to next year's edition of Expo Manufactura? What could you say to U.S. companies about why they should come down to Expo?
Okay, well, the U.S. companies normally participate with us, or they have been participating with us a lot of years ago, because we have a U.S. pavilion, and we have a very close relation with the government of U.S., so we work together to bring these companies to Mexico, and they normally the new ones look for distributors in Mexico. So that's the greatest place to find them now. But also we have these companies from the US that have been with us a lot of years, and they participate year through year. So we have becoming a second house for them now. So we're happy to have all these U.S. companies.
And they're happy to go and have more business, no doubt.
Exactly.
And so you have the exhibit hall at Expo Manufactura. Do you also have a conference or talks?
Yes, we have a very specific content program, and we work with this during the 3 days of the show. We are planning to change a little bit for the next year. To have more open sessions and to bring a couple of very high-level spokespersons at the show, and to having certification program inside. And that's part of that we have, but we have around 30 conference.
That's amazing.
During the 3 days of the show.
3 days, don't miss it. It will be at the beginning of 2025. There's plenty of time to plan your trip down to Monterrey. What can you tell folks about, again, like who do you want to come? Who would be great to see at Expo Manufactura, and what can they take home from their experience there?
Well, we will be great to see, of course, all our exhibitors that have been taking place, that have been with us this year, and new ones, of course, for the next year. And of course, very important for us, new attendees, no?
Absolutely.
New attendees, or all that we have had in the past, of course, they are welcome and we are happy to have them. But we are looking for these new attendees for example, for the south of the United States. We are looking for them, and Central America.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the relationship between our two organizations. We were really excited to be able to send some of our colleagues down to Expo Manufactura, and we heard so much great news about their experience there and saw wonderful photos of the exhibit hall.
Yes.
Why is it special or important to you to have that relationship with A3?
Well, through A3, we have had the opportunity to achieve these companies that maybe for us alone could be hardest to do. But you have an amazing show here.
Thank you.
And you have these partners with all these companies that are very important for this manufacturing process now. So for us, it's very important to have you as a partner, helping us to do better things. And of course, I think we can support you too, in different ways. And it's amazing to have partnerships like you.
Thank you. And I will say the same. I know that for us, especially, we're really excited. Last year, we received a grant from the United States government to work more and develop more business in Mexico, particularly, along with some other places. And so I know we're really excited about the opportunity to connect more with the community in Mexico as well. And really, in this industry in manufacturing and automation, collaboration is really the key to solving a lot of customer problems.
Exactly.
What can you say about the importance of that collaboration from your own point of view, and what makes for a good collaboration?
Yes. In terms of automation?
In terms of even just between between A3 and Expo Manufactura, what would make that relationship work really well?
For us, communication at the first.
Yes. Yes.
Communication is very important to us to have this, and going to the same point. I think we have to go to the same point to have the same goals.
Exactly.
And working together to have all this happen.
Yeah, and we will. If we have good communication, we can do that.
Yes, we do.
Exactly. Okay, so from your perspective, how does Expo Manufactura contribute to fostering that collaboration in Mexico amongst your companies and members there?
Well, Expo Manufactura is a meeting point for all the industry, and we help to connect not only face to face to our attendees and exhibitors, but also we contribute a lot in terms of education. No, it's a meeting point face to face, but also education, and is a place that people expect year after year to be there, to connect.
Yes.
So for us, it's really very important. And also we are launching for this year digital hub.
Amazing.
Yes, it's amazing, and we will allow us to have more connections between the year. So
amazing.
Our own platform for digital connection. So
that will be incredible, because as much as we like to connect in person, everyone needs to be connected online too.
During all the year.
Exactly.
And to have all these meetings, connections, and continue doing this business during all year.
Absolutely. And of course, we like to focus so much on education at A3 as well. It's critical to bring in that next generation of the workforce. A similar story in Mexico.
Yeah.
Can you just say a few more words about why education is important and about that program in Expo Manufactura?
Yeah. Well, it's really important, the education part. We work really together with a lot of associations, chambers, but also the education programs, and they participate into Manufactura, and we will have to prepare these people or these persons for the future, and specific for the Manufactura. Here some attendees were asking me yesterday, are Mexico is prepared to have all these nearshoring to Mexico? Are you really are Mexicans workers are really educated? And I said, of course we are. Of course we are.
Absolutely.
And part of this compromise for Expo Manufactura is to do this, to continue this education program to
exactly
all these people.
And I was able to speak with another individual this week about the growth and the education level in Mexico. And I believe Mexico is 6th in the entire world in STEM education, which is higher than the U.S. actually. So you are more than prepared in Mexico to take on this work. So just in closing thoughts, what would you say to everybody? Tell everybody to come to Expo Manufactura.
Yes.
Why should we come to Monterrey?
Well, because we are the capital of the manufactura, capital of nearshoring. You have to be there to have presence. Not only if you can't go as an exhibitor, go as an attendee, and you will be so surprised. So the things that we have in the north of our country, and well, we have a lot of surprises for you in Expo Manufactura for next year.
Head to Mexico early next year and check out Expo Manufactura, and stay tuned for more Automate Live coming up next.
A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole.
Hi, welcome back to Automate Live. Again, I'm Jana Martin, Media Production Manager at 8.3, and I am joined by a special panel of individuals to talk to me today about vision standards. Next to me is our own Bob Makura. He is the Director of Vision and Imaging Standards for the A3. Next to him is Supritek Banerjee. Sorry if I said that incorrectly.
That's okay.
You are the head of standardization for robots and automation for VDMA EV. Thank you for being here. And then, of course, at the end, we have Masahito Watabe from Atomic. And you are the vice chairman at JIA, which is Japan Industrial Imaging Association.
He's the chairman.
I had to look down at my notes for that. Okay, so let's dive right in, and we're going to talk about G3. What is it, and what does it do, Bob?
Sure. The G3 is a little bit of a confusing name that hopefully we can maybe straighten out in the future. But it was patterned after the G8, the G20. Originally, 3 associations got together and said that we really needed to cooperate on machine vision standardization. Standardization is expensive and complex, and we have a number of regions involved, so it really makes it important to be efficient in standards development. So the primary thing we do is communicate. We meet twice a year, usually face-to-face. The G3 also does a lot of other things. We set up standards booths at each other's shows, and we offer space. Here you have 3 members of the G3, there are 5 associations, A3, EMVA, VDMA, CMVU, and GIA, certainly.
That's a lot of acronyms to remember.
It is. But you've got 3 of us here, and we have a standards booth here at the show where we set up our demonstrations on our standards. We wish we had our other 2 associations here, but we realize we can't always be at all the shows.
That's pretty cool, though, to get everybody together here. So if you would maybe say a few words about why it's important for you to be here at this event. Why do you like coming to each other's events?
Yeah, so we have heard the buzzwords of Internet of Things everywhere, right? Now the concept of Internet of Things comes to the industry, which becomes industrial Internet of Things. And that's what the VDMA brings to the G3 table. So we are working on industrial Internet of Things standards, or we call them back home in Europe, Industry 4.0. So the 4th industrial revolution, where all the devices in the shop floor, factory floor, in the production environment are talking to each other. And when this happens, then you always need a common way of communication between machines through all the layers of the automation pyramid. If you don't have this common way, then you need to know about proprietary ways to talk to 10,000 millions of devices on the shop floor, and that's going to be crazy. And that's what we do. We, with Bob, with GIA, and within the G3, we talk about the machine vision, smart machine vision standard that is known as OPCUA for machine vision. That's the road of VDMA. That's why we are here, and we are anywhere. We are happy to support the G3 and with standardization efforts, and it's always good to talk to other associations which are working on standards so that you do not do something that they have already done.
Right.
So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just take what is there established and then you build on top of it.
Very effective. And then GIA, from your perspective, why do you like to have this G3? Why is it so important to you to have this collaboration amongst the 5 different standardization communities?
Actually, we have vision standard, Quark Express, named Quark Express. When we start that development, there are many contributors who want to join us. But as long as I know, we only have a domestic scheme. So to make an international standard, we need to gather many various contributors from the world. That's why we are asking to establish this scheme. That is most likely same timing, starting the Quark Express and starting international standard, starting G3. So that's why we are really hope to establish this kind of scheme with A3 and with EMBA at that moment, and now we have a 5 association. That is very important to make internationalized standard for the world of massive vision world.
We're really excited to have all three of you here together. It feels like a special moment on Automate Live. Never happened before. But now let's talk a little bit more and let's explain what IVSM is. Bob, do you want to take the lead on that?
Sure. Back in 2016, as the G3 got stronger, we realized that it would be very useful to coordinate all our meetings together. So International Vision Standards meetings, we're IVSMers. We get together twice a year in the spring and fall. We rotate between Asia, Europe, and North America. GIA just hosted outside Tokyo recently, and VDMA will be hosting this fall in Switzerland. Yes. So when we got everybody together, it was very powerful. It made for a very efficient operation, and we've steadily gotten to be a larger and larger group. And we also run our Plug Fest in association with the IVSMs, which is very important for the stability and of the standards. So yeah, it's something that's gained a lot of momentum, and we're very happy about.
I love that you brought up Plug Fest. I've only recently been introduced to this fun competition that you do. I don't know, it's fun for me. It's probably not as fun for the folks trying to make sure that their cameras pass. But can you say a little bit more about the Plug Fest and kind of, you know, what it is and what people gain from being a part of that?
Yeah, so a big portion of our standards are interoperability standards, such that any camera that meets the standard should work with any software that meets the standard. So it's very important for each component to get as much experience with other hardware and softwares as possible. We do it as part of the qualification process so that we're verifying that anything that wears the badge meets the requirements, but it's also useful for the development of the standard as we come out with a new version.
Right, right. Now, from your perspective also, when the IVSM meeting started, what did that kind of change in this standards game for you?
Yeah, so like I said, the exposure to other standards or the exposure to what other groups might be doing or might have defined already, you don't get that just by doing your own thing and going your own direction.
Right.
So unless and until you get an exposure or an opportunity to see what the other guys are doing, what they are talking about, then you don't do this when you're doing something similar or in the same direction with your own standard. You just use the ones that are already there. And since all of the groups actually meet at the same place physically, it makes things easier. So it's a win-win situation for everyone actually.
We're able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, since you were just the host of the most recent IVSM meeting, what was your favorite moment or takeaway from having everybody come and join you in Tokyo?
That is that is one, how to say it, concern we had because after the corona, the first time we have a meeting at Tokyo and then coming again to Japan, and that is we are really realize that to have a face-to-face meeting.
Yeah.
To making it happen, and during the corona, we also have some meeting with virtual. So when we compare with that, it's really tremendous difference we found, and really it's real things we can make with face to face. So to make that, we also prepare some excursions and also some interesting things. Not only technical things, but also how to say it, some good scenery or good food. and having a discussion whole days or a whole night. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So just to add on,
Yeah, please.
sometimes when we have difficult issues during the meetings, the times after the meetings are where we get together and solve some of the real tough issues.
Because you have that in-person connection, and you know, when you're just emailing about things, days go by, and the kind of the feeling and the care behind the message, you lose that, and yeah, I can totally see why that's so important, as we all have learned in the last few years. It's important to
after
get
these
together.
meetings, like Navesan was saying, after these meetings we have these very, very cool get-togethers where you get to see the other side of these people who are usually working so hard and building
Right.
these standards up. So all work and no play kind of a
You
thing.
can let your hair down.
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell us, each of you now, and I'll start with Mashito. What is the biggest thing in vision standards going on this year at GIA?
For the year, actually, we are almost finalized many things now of the existing standard. So now we are really focusing on have a collaboration with associations, but not only in D3, but also like ISO, IEC, ITUT, but those kind of standardization body need to have a collaboration with us because our machine vision application is widely used, and in the past we only focusing on the factory floor, but this technology is nowadays using for many type of applications. That's why we need to have a collaboration with not only for G3, but the other association. That is focusing on now for GIA. Of course, we have doubling speed or something technical a revolution is waiting for that. For example, the fiber, using fiber collaboration with every standard, or using a copper doubling speed or something like that. But the key thing is make a good collaboration with various standard bodies. That is this year's key things that we think.
A big year for GIA, no
Yes.
doubt. Okay, and then now let's talk about what is going on at VDMA.
So at the
this year.
VDMA, we are going full accelerator on the Industry 4.0 or Industrial Internet of Things concept, and we are at the moment we are focusing on OPC UA for the operation as the operative technology, and then we also have a separate entity called the IDTA, which is focusing on the digital twin aspects. And then we marry these concepts together to really create the digital factory of the future. And that is what we are really hoping forward to. And seeing the response here and the way that smart industries is being pushed by all these great players in the industry, it's a good feeling. So this year will be we will be banging on that.
It's an exciting year, and exciting. Everyone will be heading out to your neck of the woods this fall for the next meeting.
Yes, for the next IBSM, yes.
And then Bob, from your point of view, just to wrap things up here, what are we excited about A3 in terms of standards this year?
So GigiVision is working on breaking the 10 gig barrier. While GigiVision is scalable to all speed grades of Ethernet, using the current streaming protocol, we're really capped at 10 gigs. We're going to be using a new protocol, or adding a new protocol to the standard, which will take us up to 400 gigs, which is quite big news. We made very significant progress over at the last IBSM in Tokyo. I expect a lot more progress in Switzerland at the next meeting, and hopefully early next year we'll have GigiVision version 3.
Wow, stay tuned for exciting news on that.
Yes.
So let's just wrap up, and I'll go to each of you. But first, let's talk. If somebody's interested in finding out more about GIA and getting involved, how should they do that? How should somebody get more involved and find out about GIA standards?
Now it's It's quite simple to gather the contributors and to gather the power of associations. That is the key of the.
And Bob, what would you say for that?
All of us have our websites where we
Yep.
talk about our standards. We're all easily contactable.
Yep.
We're always interested in getting more people involved. The committees are quite, they're interesting because they're competitors who have worked together for a long time. And when bringing new people into the fold is critical and important.
I know for a fact if you go to automate.org, you'll find Bob's contact information. And then how about for you? How can folks get involved?
Yeah, they can just get in touch with me. If this somebody is at the Automate, they can come to our booth. We can talk freely. We are all open organizations, and if any of our standards are interesting to the folks, then they can really, all of our contact details are on the brochures and everywhere. They can openly contact us and we will get them on board.
We have open arms. We want to share vision standards with the world.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for this special episode of Automate Live, all about vision standards. We'll be back here with more from Automate Live in just a minute.
A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all...
Hola, buenas tardes. Es un gusto para mí estar aquí hoy con ustedes, directo desde Chicago en el Automate Show. Hoy tengo la oportunidad de hablar con estas dos hermosas colegas, María Salcido y María José Alonso de Universal Robots. Y es para mí un honor tenerlas aquí, hoy que estamos celebrando no solo el Automate Show, sino el crecimiento que han tenido las mujeres en la industria. Entonces, para mí es un honor tenerlas aquí. Sean bienvenidas. Se las voy a presentar nuevamente. María José Alonso, nuestro Marketing and Business Developer de México y de Latinoamérica. Y María Salcido, que es el Challenge Developer Manager de Universal Robots también para América. Es un gusto tenerlas aquí y me gustaría hacerles unas preguntas de cómo ha sido pues toda su trayectoria como mujeres en esta industria y que nos platiquen un poco más desde su perspectiva personal y también desde Universal Robots. ¿Sale? Vamos a empezar contigo, María José, si estás de acuerdo.
Muchas gracias, Clau, por empezar por este espacio. Creo que las dos estamos muy contentas de poder participar en esta conferencia.
Y esperemos que no sea la última.
Esperemos que no sea la última.
Perfecto. Bueno, se dice que todas las tendencias recientes muestran un número creciente sobre la participación de las mujeres en la industria. ¿Cuáles tú crees que sean estas tendencias respecto a la participación de las mujeres? ¿Ha incrementado? ¿No? ¿Cuál es tu perspectiva también dentro de Universal Robots?
Mira, creo que en general ha habido un incremento gradual en la participación de las mujeres en la industria. Muchas empresas ya están comenzando a dar un poquito más de importancia en tener estos programas en los que se busca a lo mejor llegar a cierto tipo de equidad de género, a cierto tipo de paridad. Hay un camino muy grande por recorrer todavía, pero creo que el poder destacar los logros y los diferentes tipos de aporte que tienen las mujeres en la industria va a ser súper importante para poder seguir avanzando. Y como un ejemplo personal muy rápido, en Universal Robots, cuando yo comencé a trabajar ahí, éramos únicamente 2 mujeres para cubrir y apoyar a la región de LATAM. Al día de hoy, el número de hombres y mujeres está casi igualado a un 50-50. Entonces, creo que es el camino que las empresas que quieran seguir avanzando y siendo visionarias en este ámbito van a tener que pasar por ahí.
Me parece perfecto. Creo que es algo que yo también viví, puedo comentarlo, creo que lo platicábamos ayer, ¿no? En mi primer Business Forum, cuando yo recién llegué a 3, podías contar a las mujeres con las 2 manos. Creo que si éramos 8, éramos muchas, ¿no? Y hoy dentro de las 600 personas ves alrededor de 100 mujeres, ¿no? Entonces es increíble el crecimiento que se ha tenido. Muchas gracias, María José. María, cuéntanos ahora tú un poco. Ha habido como ciertos desafíos para las mujeres, ciertos estereotipos en algunas ocasiones.
Claro.
¿Te ha tocado vivir algo? ¿Cuál es tu perspectiva de estos temas dentro de tu trayectoria?
Claro, pues primeramente gracias por la invitación, gracias por abrir estos espacios, es sumamente importante poder tener estas conversaciones, pero los principales desafíos es el sesgo de género, también la falta de representación de modelos femeninos en la automatización y también la falta de acceso tanto a networkings como a mentorías principalmente.
Eso es súper importante y qué bueno que lo tocas, porque una de las siguientes preguntas que justo le quiero hacer a Majo es si existen, si ustedes tienen o han participado en algunas iniciativas, programas, algo como muy específico que ayude a fomentar esta participación de las mujeres en la industria de la automatización.
Creo que de nuestro lado tenemos la fortuna de pertenecer al grupo de Teradyne Robotics. Y siendo parte de este grupo de Teradyne, es una empresa que está muy preocupada por tener tanto programas internos como sociales en los que ellos fomentan la participación de mujeres en diferentes ámbitos, en tener grupos de apoyo y sobre todo en estar impulsando a niñas desde muy temprana edad a querer involucrarse y dirigirse a este lado de las carreras STEM. Entonces, creo que son grandes iniciativas que todas las empresas deberían de poquito a poquito ir trabajando para impulsar a las mujeres en este ámbito.
Te voy a hacer una pregunta personal, pero tú cuéntame, como madre de familia, ¿cómo haces para fomentar como este tipo de curiosidad por la ingeniería, por la robótica con tus hijos?
Mira, soy mamá de una niña, entonces la presión es grande.
Sí.
Pero creo que más allá de querer tratar de dirigirla hacia un lado u otro, para mí lo que ha sido como una regla de vida desde que me convertí en mamá es ser un ejemplo.
Excelente.
Creo que la forma más directa y en la que podemos tener una mejor influencia en nuestros hijos y en las personas que están alrededor de nosotros es tratando de ser siempre nuestra mejor versión y ser un ejemplo y demostrarle a mi hija que si trabaja se puede y que no importa que sea niña, los gustos que tengan, puede lograr las cosas y está determinada.
Excelente. Admirable tu respuesta, pero muy encaminada. Me da mucho gusto. María, ahora cuéntanos tú un poquito cómo las empresas, ¿no?, pueden también hacer soporte en esta parte, cómo pueden ayudar a trabajar con nuevas iniciativas y juntar apoyos para que las mujeres se engrandezcan en la industria de la automatización.
Claro, creo que es bien importante la colaboración tanto con compañías como instituciones educativas, porque la colaboración de eso, dirigido por ejemplo a reclutamientos hacia las mujeres, debe ser primordial. También otra de las cosas es creando planes de estudio, destacando la participación de las mujeres y de lo que se ha realizado de las mujeres en la industria y en la automatización. Y creo que también involucrando la participación de ambos géneros, la participación de ambos géneros en las culturas organizacionales es bien importante, también con prácticas profesionales, como mentorías, para poder, digamos, apoyar y promover las mujeres dentro de tanto las compañías como las instituciones educativas.
Me parece excelente. Tú como, digamos, ingeniera en el campo, ¿no?
Sí.
Como mujer y como una de las líderes que han seguido nuestros jóvenes estudiantes, por ejemplo, en el concurso de cobótica que hemos tenido la oportunidad de realizar en Expo Manufactura, ¿cómo ves a las estudiantes? ¿Las ves temerosas? ¿Las ves fuertes? ¿Qué les podríamos como compartir a las empresas para que encaminen más a estas chicas? Como bien dices, en la cultura organizacional.
Claro, tuve la oportunidad este 8 de marzo de participar en un evento por instituciones educativas, en varios eventos donde hubo paneles de mujeres, y creo que es la primera vez que yo veo esta participación en las mujeres. Este tipo de conversaciones que estamos teniendo son bien importantes para poder tener ese acompañamiento y poder tener, digamos, esos roles a seguir y poder abrir esos espacios para las próximas generaciones. Y es bien importante lo que estamos haciendo justamente en este momento de poder crear este tipo de espacios, y yo solamente diría es crear los espacios seguros tanto en las organizaciones como en las escuelas para poder tener ese apoyo tanto de otras mujeres como de otros compañeros.
Excelente. María José, voy nuevamente contigo. Todos creemos que las mujeres tenemos algo único que aportamos a las empresas. ¿Tú cuáles crees que sean algunas de estas contribuciones que como mujeres podemos aportar con gran orgullo a la industria de la automatización?
Mira, creo que por todo el camino que tenemos que recorrer, a lo mejor todos los retos que tenemos que afrontar para llegar aquí a donde estamos, las mujeres pueden ser una gran fuente de creatividad, pueden aportar muchísimo a la resolución de problemas complejos, a formas diferentes de trabajo, y creo que uno de los aspectos a lo mejor más visibles es el tipo de colaboración y el tipo de intercambio y de interacciones que pueden generar dentro de un equipo, y es ahí donde siempre vamos a ser un factor clave para que cualquier equipo o empresa sea exitoso.
Excelente. Bueno, creo que ustedes ya lo hacen, ¿eh? Es un orgullo ver todo lo que han logrado.
Gracias.
María, platícanos un poco. Las empresas ya están empezando a implementar y a darle prioridad a todo lo que es la equidad de género.
Claro.
¿Cómo lo viven ustedes desde Universal Robots? ¿Cómo lo vives tú como ingeniera también? Porque a ti te toca, yo sé, ver cómo estos programas universitarios, la parte de negocio y todo ese tipo de cosas. ¿Cómo lo has vivido hasta ahora?
Mira, sí ha habido cambio, ha sido un progreso lento, pero creo que es bien importante que todo el tema de tanto igualdad e inclusión debe ser un cambio continuo para poder hacer un cambio a largo plazo. Yo al principio, cuando recién inicié, no te puedo decir que ni siquiera el 10% de las mujeres eran las que yo veía en la industria.
Claro.
Pero te puedo decir que ahorita ya estoy viendo alrededor entre un 15 y un 20% de mujeres dentro de las plantas, dentro de las instituciones educativas. Entonces, ahí vamos a paso lento, pero sí es bien importante que tanto compañías como instituciones sigan llevando ese cambio continuo para poder generar, pues ahora sí que el cambio a largo plazo, ¿no?
Claro, como decimos, lentos pero seguros.
Pero seguros,
eso es lo
sí.
más importante. Muy bien. María José, ahora cuéntanos un poco tú, ¿qué consejo le darías, y nuevamente tocando un poco el tema de que tienes una nena, a las mujeres, no importa la edad que tengan, que están interesadas en seguir o buscar estas carreras en la automatización, ¿qué consejo les darías? Porque hoy que tuvimos el desayuno de mujeres precisamente, a mí me gustó mucho lo que decía una de nuestras líderes, ¿no? Sí, las carreras STEM, pero a mí me gustaría que abordaras un poco más ese consejo de fortaleza en que las mujeres podemos, y podemos con mucho, ¿no? No solo este tipo de carreras. ¿Qué consejos darías?
Mira, creo que lo más importante es siempre creer en ellas mismas, es seguir trabajando, seguir educándose, aprovechar cualquier oportunidad que tengan para tomar cualquier curso, aprender una cosa nueva, pero creo también que ya estando en nuestra posición, siendo colegas, siendo a lo mejor líderes de un equipo, es súper importante también que, y un poco nuestra responsabilidad, que nosotros seamos un espacio seguro para nuestras compañeras, para nuestros colegas. Ellas se tienen que ir creando una red de apoyo en la que sientan confianza, en donde se sientan apoyadas, a donde puedan acudir. Entonces, ofrecer programas de mentoría, ser esta red de apoyo, ayudarles a hacer a lo mejor esa guía que nos hubiera gustado tener a nosotros.
Exacto.
Creo que es súper importante y una gran responsabilidad que debemos todos asumir, sea cual sea nuestro puesto. Y
eso me encanta.
Y bueno, creo que es ese mi mensaje principal.
Excelente. ¿A ti te gustaría agregar algo a eso, María, desde tu perspectiva, en cuanto a consejo que les darías a lo mejor a...
Creo que María José lo tocó muy bien en cuestión a ser ese espacio seguro para las demás personas. Sí, hablando de mujeres, pero también de las personas en general.
Excelente.
Creo que nosotros tenemos la responsabilidad de ser la inspiración para las próximas generaciones.
Exacto.
Entonces, sí.
Muy bien. Ahora platícanos tú un poco. Existen muchos estereotipos sobre las mujeres que necesitan ser abordados. ¿Crees que hay alguno en particular o algunos que no se mencionan que deben de ser atacados ya para poder mejorar?
Sí, de esos estereotipos sí he escuchado mucho que las mujeres somos, o piensan, tienen la concepción de que somos menos capaces o que tenemos menos interés en las carreras técnicas, lo cual yo pienso que debe ser abordado por medio de la educación, por medio de campañas de concientización, y también es súper importante poder tener esos roles femeninos exitosos allá afuera que puedan ser roles para las demás personas.
Claro. María José, tú cuéntanos un poco, ¿cómo crees que las empresas y las instituciones educativas y los shows como estos espacios puedan implementar y trabajar más la cuestión de la inclusión?
Mira, de primera mano creo que empieza por los líderes de equipo.
Ajá.
Creo que es súper importante crear un espacio de trabajo en donde tenemos ciertas iniciativas, ciertos procesos, proyectos en los que buscamos la inclusión, el respeto, en los que nosotros mismos somos un ejemplo para los demás de cómo nos gustaría que trataran a cualquier miembro del equipo, no únicamente mujeres, pero apoyando la diversidad, tener este tipo de campañas y de planes muy claros en los que se fomente el respeto del grupo.
Eso sería perfecto. Muy bien, y por último, María, platícanos. We have time for one more question, right? Okay. Entonces, pues quiero agradecerles a todos por este espacio. Ya no pudimos terminar, pero para mí de verdad es un orgullo tenerlas como colegas en esta industria. Gracias por permitirme crear este espacio. Muchas gracias, Automate Show. Nos despedimos con esto y sigan conectados con nosotros.
Gracias.
had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole.
Hello, this is Dan Alford with ARC Specialties. We're at the Automate Show in Chicago with my guest, Gene Rabatin.
I'm Gene Rabatin. I'm with Yaskawa Motorman.
So we're going to give you guys a update on the show, because I like to go to these shows, and I had an opportunity to go this one thanks to Gene.
Yep. So we decided this year that we were going to include partners in our booth, and Dan was an obvious choice because he likes doing these crazy science projects with his applications, and I thought he'd be a great fit for what we have in the Yaskawa booth this year. So what is your take? What have you seen?
Well, I like to go to these shows for networking and technology. I live in fear of becoming a dinosaur, because if you let technology to eclipse you, then you're out of work. And so it's been fascinating. I know this year, I think the Chinese say it's the year of the dragon.
Okay.
I think it might be the year of AI, cobots, and vision.
Okay.
That's what I'm seeing.
All right.
A whole lot of it. And
definitely a lot of AI I see.
Yeah, that's the catchword, and there's more cobots than you can imagine. So I've had a great time walking through here. But one thing that I've found interesting was the fact that we've got some really advanced technology, some really bright people selling some clever sensors and stuff, but it's the last mile, and that's our relationship. It's the integrator.
Yep, 100%. I always kind of joke around when I talk to you about the integrator. You know my history. I've been with a end effector company, I've been to a robot company, and then I say I get to the dark side of integration for a few years, and that's you. And I am so much more appreciative of people like you, because integration's hard. I mean, it's the hardest job I ever had is selling it, and I just know what it took for my integrator company, what they had to do to make a project work. I mean, there's a lot of components moving. It's not just a robot, right?
No, it's tough.
The robot's the easy part.
And if we weren't necessary, all these people wouldn't be here selling 100%. These sensors and all this other stuff. So that's what we do. If anybody in the audience doesn't know what an integrator is, we take
conveyors,
Motoman robot and add a welding system and tooling and software and sensors and all this stuff to make it work. I always say in robotics, you get an A+ or you get an F.
Okay, there's nothing in between.
No, there is nothing in between. And so, and failure's not an option. We have to make this stuff run. And so it's fun. Some of us like this. You call it the dark side.
You love the challenge, I know, and I'm glad there's people like you out there.
And,
else I wouldn't sell robots.
Right. Well, and it takes a whole lab. That's why back in Houston we have a whole lab because we don't know everything.
Yeah.
And so somebody will bring a crazy project to us. We either say yes, technology exists, no, not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe next year, or we don't know, and then we go to the lab and we play.
Yeah. You and I have talked before a little bit about the integrators in the arena, in our industry, and we have a lot of integrators that are part of the A3. But there's also a special page on the A3 website for certified integrators. And I know you're a certified integrator. So tell me what
and
that.
It's your fault.
I'm going to take full blame. Go ahead, tell them why it's my fault.
Okay, so once upon a time, years ago, you told me that I really needed to join A3. Well, it was RIA back then.
RIA, yep.
Robotics Industrial Association. Yep. And the part of your pitch was that they had a certified robot integrator program.
Yep.
And that made sense to me. We joined. All my guys were nervous about taking the test because you have to be able to do a safety audit and you have to be able to program. And there's an actual test. You guys send out an auditor.
Okay.
And they passed with flying colors. It's no big deal. But I'm a huge fan of this program.
I've talked to several integrators over the years who went through it. And every single one of them say, we were nervous, we were studying, we didn't know what to expect, and we didn't know if we'd pass. Every single one of them says, oh, yeah, we were already doing what they require us to do on this. It's kind of our daily practice. So it's like this daunting thing. I think people think like, oh, we're gonna have to be audited and tested. It's gonna be scary, but they all seem to pass it and it's fine. But the sad part about it is, you've counted it. How many certified integrators are on our
38 in America, 1 in Texas by my last count.
And you're the only guy in Texas.
That's it, and that's unfortunate. And
how many integrators do you think we have in this industry?
You have a better guess than me. I would say
500-600, you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would guess.
I would guess that too. So out of 500 system integrators, we have 38 that are certified A3 integrators.
And I can either say that gives me a huge leg up, or I can encourage my competitors to go get certified.
So I'm on the other side now. I'm on the robot side of things. I'm working in partners, right? You're a partner. And when we are having end users talk to us and they want our help to try to pick the right partner, I would hope that our partners have this certification, right? I don't want Joe's Garage Shop putting together. I mean, unless Joe's Garage Shop is certified.
Right,
But,
and
I
it
want
could
there
be.
to be,
And the small
good
guys
integrators.
can do it.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to be a big guy to do this stuff.
Yep.
But the last thing we need in our industry is a bad robot job. Yeah. If I walk into a shop and they've got a robot back in the back that's collecting dust, the first thing I have to do is convince them that robots aren't bad.
Yeah.
It's just that integration is hard.
Yeah. Yep.
Some of us thrive on it, though.
Yep.
Our motto is we thrive on problems, send us yours, and we mean it.
Yeah, I know. I know you do. You do the crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. So what else have you seen at the show?
What? You are the guy who's into the technology thing. I'm in the networking. And you just gave me a challenge while we're walking over to this booth.
I asked you, how far can you walk without waving to somebody?
He said, how far can you walk without waving or getting a hug from somebody? And I says, I don't know, like 20 foot. And then 6 feet later, somebody stopped and said, hey, Gene, and gave me a hug. So I'm here for the networking and seeing all my friends in the industry. You're here for the technology. So what's some cool stuff that you've seen?
Like I said, I think it's the year of vision, and nobody really knows which way vision's going to go. It can either be stereo, time of flight, or structured light. Okay. And we're playing with all of them. But
nice.
But what is the sense that you use more often than any other of your other 5 senses?
Yeah, I guess
my
vision, yeah.
And so I think that's going to make a huge effect on robots. And so I'm paying particular attention to the vision booths, whether it's 2D or 3D vision.
Okay.
And we've had some success with that because now the robot can determine the orientation and the presentation of a part, because you have to register the part. And we're starting to have robots leave the factory and go to the problem.
Okay.
And if that's the case, the robot has to register the problem. That could be a human femur or a ship.
Or or an oil rig.
Or an oil rig. And so we have to somehow or another give the robot the ability to quickly determine the exact position of the part. Before it can perform any operation on the part, it has to know its orientation. So that's a big one for us. The whole AI thing is pretty impressive. I've seen a couple of places that are really doing a good job with it. It's still in its infancy.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be big. And then processor power. As processor power goes up, we can do better things more quickly.
Good. So you have some Yeah, the show's been good for you so far. You've been in the Yaskawa booth this week with your demo.
Oh, there's quite a crowd here. You can see it. We've had
You've had a lot of good
stuff. So this used to be a semi-annual event.
Yep, now it's annual.
Annual event. Where are we holding it next year?
Next year's going to be Detroit.
In Detroit.
Yep. I think they're going to go back and forth between the two. Chicago, Detroit.
Well, very good. It's been a good show for me, and I deeply appreciate you guys allowing this space in the booth.
I'm excited to have partners in our booth. I think it's a great move that we're doing, to have actual people who do the integration show us what they do best.
So anybody that's out there listening today, if you didn't make it to Automate this year, hopefully you'll make it next year.
Yeah, I agree.
So hope to see you Detroit
in 2025.
2025. We'll see you at Automate.
Yep, thanks.
A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital of people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital of people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies.
Hi, and welcome back to Automate Live. My name is Jana Martin. I'm the Media Production Manager here for the Association of Advancing Automation, and we are so excited. This year is the first year ever. Here at Automate 2024, we have given out the Educator of the Year Award, and with me today is Danny Murphy. He is an assistant professor of mechatronics at Central Virginia Community College. Danny, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on winning the Educator of the Year Award.
I'm so excited.
The ceremony just happened. You literally ran over here with this incredible award that you've received. And let's just talk about your experience in education. First of all, tell us about this moment right now. You've just won this award. How does it feel?
It feels amazing. One reason why it feels so amazing is validation. Everybody loves validation, but really it's more about having a voice, having a reference of A3 behind me. Gives me the power to make collaborations with people in industry that I may never have had the opportunity to talk to before. And what that does is enables me to give more to my students and give more power to my students and more connections, and that's what I really care about.
That's awesome. So what does this mean again to you and your vision for education? And so you mentioned just a little bit, it kind of gives you that credential. But when you look at your work as an educator, how does this really impact your work and your students?
Well, like I said, it's empowering.
Yeah.
So everybody who's passionate about what they do wants to have a voice. Everyone who cares about something wants to have the power to do something positive about it. What my purpose is to help my students get jobs, give back to society, and doing that on my own has had some limited impact. But being able to do it with someone like A3 behind me really opens up a lot of doors that I'm incredibly grateful for.
So tell me a little bit more about that passion for instructing. Just first of all, how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching for almost 6 years. I spent 25 years as a controls engineer. So the projects I've been involved in range from Harley-Davidson to U.S. Special Forces Night Vision to ALMA Observatory, which is the world's most powerful deep space telescope. But while all that was very fulfilling and very rewarding, I didn't know the meaning of the word rewarding until I started to be able to help my students do more with their lives. And there's a reason for that, and I'd like to talk to you about what that reason was. Sometimes people will ask me if I had a particular moment that defined teaching for me or was particularly challenging. And there was. The only thing is, I wasn't the teacher when it happened. I was the student. Now, being a Gen Xer, my whole generation is defined by rebelliousness and pretentiousness, and I was no exception to that. And I was a very difficult student in high school and I was heading nowhere. And my electronics teacher, Steve Cosner, reached out to me and he helped me and he put me on the right path. And it's Steve Cosner, that man made the entire difference in my life. I would have nothing to do with engineering, I would have nothing to do with automation if it weren't for the fact that he cared enough to put me on the right path. And when 6 years ago, Marcy Gale asked if I would be involved to teach the mechatronics and electronics program, I knew that it was a cosmic imperative, that I had to take the opportunity to maybe have the same kind of impact for some student that he had for me. And it turns out any teacher has that opportunity about 3 times a semester. And that's an amazing power that we can really multiply if we just make the commitment to working together instead of trying to do it on our own.
That's right, and that's what we're here doing at Automate. We're trying to bring together the instructors and the students and the industry, get everybody together, talk about what we need for the next generation of workforce in automation. Part of what you're doing as an instructor. So what was that transition like, going from being a technical person to now being an instructor? What gives you joy in that daily work now?
That's an interesting question. Having been an engineer, I'm allowed to say this. Engineers are some of the most arrogant people that there are out there. Like I said, I'm talking about myself right now. The reason for that is that we're locked inside a cubicle all day, every day, trying to create good for society. And the only time anyone ever talks to you is when they have an opportunity to come in and criticize you for something that might not even be your fault. Well, guess what? Being an educator is no different. You're giving your heart and soul to do something to help other people, and there's a lot of criticism that comes from the outside and what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. Well, what do you do with that? Well, the answer is that you try to take what you have, your resources that you're working with, and you try to magnify them for the people that you're working for, in this case, the students. The interesting thing is, a lot of academia is underfunded, and the reason for that is because it's funded by the taxpayer. And if anyone's looked at the economy recently, we can tell that nobody's going to want to vote to pay additional taxes for education, regardless of how important it is. So educators are stuck. They know that they need to keep up with developing technology, but they don't have the means to do it. So what do? Do you lecture on dry material, on things that are 12 and 20 years old? No, that's not the right way to do it. Fortunately, industry has stepped up and said, we're willing to partner with you to supply you equipment, to supply you help on how to keep up with this emerging technology, which is everything to the educator, because without that collaboration and without that partnership, what we have is absolutely nothing.
That's exactly right. Can you share a memorable moment from your journey as an educator, perhaps a student success story or some challenging teaching experience? Because I think it's those hard moments that really make us, right?
The hard moments do make us, but the experience I want to share with you is actually a more positive one.
Oh, good.
So, coming from a conservative background, I've always shied away from social media. It's just something we were supposed to do. And I remember was reading LinkedIn a lot, and we would always see the same criticism. What they should be doing is in education is this. What they're doing is this, and that's no good. And they should be teaching hands-on, relevant education. And I kept thinking when I'm reading this, well, we do that. So maybe I should take out my phone and start videoing the fact that we're doing this, not to make an argument about it, but just to show people, hey, your voice is being heard. The things that you're telling us to do, we're in fact doing. And I produced some garbage short form content that I posted to LinkedIn. And within about 3 days, an employer in my area that I didn't know existed reached out to me on LinkedIn, and they said, we want to hire the guy in the gray shirt. And when that happened, I realized what kind of power I had in my hand to get my students the jobs that they needed. And ever since then, once or twice a week, I've been trying to post shorts of my class or encouraging my students to post reels themselves, because knowledge is power, and that marketing is something I love to be able to take that power and use it to promote my students.
And you do. And if you're not already following Danny Murphy on LinkedIn, you should be. Like he says, back-to-back videos that just showing kids working with this technology, creating things. And it's just really inspiring to just go on LinkedIn and see that, because it's not often in our feeds.
I appreciate that. I talk to some of my STEM students, and I tell them, we can do this lab, and we can produce the typical lab report. You cannot want to make it, I cannot want to grade it, and when we're done, we can throw it in the garbage and nothing happens. Or if you want, and it's always optional because it's a touchy subject, if you'd like to produce a reel on the lab, then here's the power that you have. You can take what you're learning and you can teach someone else who doesn't have these resources, who doesn't have a STEM program, might not even live in a region where this is available, and you can become the teacher. When you do that, allow me to tell everybody about it so that your future college or your future employer looks at you when you're 16, 17 years old and says, even back then, this student was becoming the teacher and illustrating what they're actually doing to proliferate technology.
That is so exciting. Well, winning this award comes with recognition for the mastery of this subject matter that you have. How do you continuously deepen your expertise in robotics and automation to stay at the forefront of this field? It's such an issue. It's a good issue to have that the technology is getting better, but it does, I think, probably add a layer of complication as an instructor.
Yeah, that's well said. Well, fortunately, with the rate that technology changes, it means that every year and a half, 2 years, we have to bring in new material. If we're going to bring in new material, schools are good about giving instructors continuing education, but continuing education in a classroom environment can be a little static and it can be a little short-sighted. What I would encourage any other professor to do is not only take a course on the material, but outside of their class, have a consulting business, have a design business, partner with industry to actually employ this new technology in real projects, because when we try and we fail to make this stuff work is when we actually learn and experience that we can share with our students and empower them through our own failures and partial successes.
I love that. I love that, empowering the students. Finally, could you share any advice or words of encouragement for aspiring educators or other professionals looking to make a difference in this work?
You have to get over the idea that you can do it all alone. You're going to want to do it all alone. You're going to want to think that you're at the pinnacle of the place of knowledge that you have to be, and that you're going to be the end all for your students, but you can't. You're going to have areas where you excel, and you're going to have areas where you're not so great. And what you have to do is partner with other educators, and you have to partner with industry in a way that you can do something that's bigger than you are.
Well, we hear it again from our Educator of the Year, Danny Murphy. Collaboration is key. Again, congratulations, Danny. We're so excited for you. And if you haven't already, there's still time to come down and check out Automate. Tomorrow is the student tour day. You'll definitely want to be at the Education Pavilion to see all of that happening tomorrow here at Automate. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with more here on Automate Live.
A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital of people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole. has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole.
All right, welcome to Automate Live, where we have a lot of conversations around robotics, new technologies that hit the factory floor, the warehouse. But for this conversation, we're gonna go, I'm gonna say off track, ironically, because we're gonna be going on track with the application we're talking about. We're talking about the fastest autonomous race car. So we are joined by three panelists that are gonna take us through this story. We've got Mark Ferlet to my left, we got Eric Salins, and we also have Christoph Lohrick. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. So the first question I have to ask is, where did this whole, I'm going to call it a project, that might not be the right word for it. Where did this whole project get started? Mark, maybe you start off and then pass it to the next person to continue the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Indy Autonomous Challenge actually started in Indiana, right? Also known as the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis. It hosts the IMS, right? The Indy 500. Everybody knows the Indy car, and it has a big heritage in motorsports. Now, it came from an observation on autonomy, seeing that most of the use cases in the market today were suburban or urban, low-speed taxis, robo-taxis. Now, that meant that very little research and development was being done on high-speed applications, and that any hopes of seeing autonomous vehicles on highways, transporting people, transporting cargo, transported perhaps mission-critical payloads between two cities with no airport infrastructure, was being done. So we decided to use the same blueprint as, and maybe the viewers will be familiar, the DARPA Grand Challenge, right? Which is essentially gathering universities from across the world and putting them in a competition setting to research and develop the fastest AI driver. And we did that with a prize competition that we held inaugurally in 2021 with a $1 million prize where at the beginning 41 universities gathered to compete to build the fastest AI driver.
Excellent. So this is a relatively new challenge. I like that you were looking at all these other, I don't want to call them slower applications, but they literally are slower than the application that you're working with right now. Let's go down the other end. Christoph, how did you get involved with this project as well?
Well, actually, it happened in December. There was a visit of the Mr. President of Flanders to Indiana, to the governor of Indiana, Eric Holcomb. And actually, that's how I got to know these guys at the table. And we more or less immediately hit it off. And they explained to me that it was more than just the race car and the racing. It was a platform for development. Actually, with AI applications, possibly autonomous AI over time. And that's exactly what is interesting for Flanders. I don't know if everyone knows Flanders and Belgium.
Yep.
But we do have we do have an ecosystem of research institutions, of colleges, of companies that are really into that AI component. And that was what triggered me. Was like, hey, this is a development platform. You guys are developing and actually accelerating research. We want to have part of that. We want to be involved. We actually want to bring to the table what we have to offer and maybe collaborate in a sort of transatlantic friendship. Is that exactly what it was? So with that visit in December, that was an MOU between the state of Indiana and Flanders.
Yeah.
And this is one of the very concrete initiatives that implement that MOU. So I'm all for it. So this is going to be actually the story of a friendship between the state and Flanders.
I love that. And, Eric, I want to have you expand on this as well, too, because I think you understand this relationship really well. Like, why Belgium? Fill me out. Because I'm the host of a podcast called Manufacturing Happy Hour. I love Belgium for the beer especially, but I want to hear this from, let's say, the technology and business standpoint.
First of all, thank you very much for having us. When you look at what the India Autonomous Challenge is doing, and I've been involved for many years in there, it's not about what we would say AI-driven automation. This is autonomous AI. So it's about creating life in a way. Now, when you do these things, regulatory framework becomes very important. Now, when you look at Belgium, it's true that we are known for soccer, at the wheel football, beer and chocolate, but the reality is that Belgium hosts all the decision-making bodies of the European Union, obviously European Union, but also NATO. In terms of intellectual capital, Belgium has per capita the highest level of top engineers. And also that's also what explains why IMEC, which is the world's leading semiconductor company, it's based in Belgium. It's a Belgian research institute, right? It's actually a Flemish one. So when with the board of EIC we were discussing where are we going to take this for civil applications. I'm not talking military, I'm talking civil applications. Obviously because I live in Belgium and I spend my time between the States, Belgium and some other parts of the world, I said, let's go to Belgium. So following the visit of our Minister President Jan Bon, and obviously all the people that then got involved, we said, okay, we want to land this here. So I'm pretty confident that when we sit here next year, we will have landed what we call the civil application spin-out of this organization in Belgium, headquartered actually in the HQ of Europe, where there are massive also, and that brings me to another point, next to intellectual capital, regulatory framework. Belgium also hosts the most beautiful Formula One track in the world. It's Spa-Francorchamps. It's the only natural Formula One track in the world. We also have a former military base that today is known as Droneport, which is one of the few places in Europe where you can have free testing in drones. But they have a strip, I think, 4 kilometers, like 2.5 miles, which is very interesting for us to do tests with the car. And Mark can elaborate on that in terms of when you have something that operates fully autonomous, you only have one button, it's a stop button.
Yeah.
All the rest you simply can't control it. You know, it's not AI-driven automation. It actually thinks for itself, it creates life.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, talk about that.
There's a stop button
super interesting topic.
and a start button, very important. But the key part about Belgium, right, as both of you have said so well, is that we have a lot of teams from around the world, right? So we have teams from Korea, teams from Italy, teams from Canada, from the US, teams from Germany. having Belgium, and I've lived in Belgium, I've lived in the US, I've lived in many places, but Belgium is known for being neutral. It's the place where all of Europe convenes, right, to make decisions, to operate as a bloc. It's the perfect place to actually establish a hub for automation and autonomy on that continent. It will also allow us to actually involve more universities, not just from the US, but also from the rest of Europe, who will have now the means to access the track for training, perhaps different categories of vehicle. It's important to say, right now our car is an Indy Light car, right? That's a very American car. However, there's lots of other use cases to be done by taking civil cars or even endurance cars like Le Mans prototype cars, which are great to find in Europe, right? That has a natural home in Belgium with the Spa track right next to Le Mans. So it's really a match made in heaven.
Yeah, so you've got the access infrastructure, you've got the innovation infrastructure for all of this. So we've jumped over to Belgium. We probably need to jump back to Indy for a little bit to kind of understand how this contest has gone down so far, because I think the listeners are going to want to understand what that story has been so far. So, Mark, maybe provide some context as how many universities have been involved in, I'm going to say, programming this fully autonomous race car?
Sure. So, I'll give you how it is right now. We have 10 university teams made up of 259 PhD students, right? All working with each one car, so they have 10 cars, 10 teams, right? Some universities will join up forces to buy a car because they have to purchase the car, which is not a small expense, right? So it's usually tier 1 research universities participating. I'll give you examples. We have MIT, we have Berkeley, we have University of Auburn, UVA, Michigan State University, right? And I'm just naming a few. So to the universities watching, I'm not making any favorites. I'm just, saying the ones on top of my head.
Sure.
Now, the important part about this and how it works is essentially through a series of events that we call Indy Autonomous Challenges, right? And they can happen in the US. They happen every year at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, right? And they happen every year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, the next race coming up is on September 6th, right? On that day, the 10 teams made up of all these universities will compete for a $1 million prize, right, in a passing competition. So that's how we actually test who has the fastest software and who has the fastest AI driver. Now, it's important to understand that all these cars are constructed identically.
Right.
Right? So they have a whole set of sensors, cameras, LiDARs, radars, right? Internal sensors for brake pressure, for temperature, et cetera, et cetera. All these are the same across each car. So the hardware stack is uniform, it's identical. It then truly becomes a software battle between the students, right? Because they're all working off of the same canvas. Now, the way we differentiate them is actually through a passing competition. So 2 and soon 3 cars sit side by side on the grid and have to, one after the other, pass, right? Pass each other at ever increasing speeds, starting at 70 miles per hour, going to 120 miles per hour, and so on, up to the point where either a car yields, or, and we don't like when that happens because we're trying to build trust, right, in autonomy, has a failure point. Now, this decision to yield is done by the AI in the car, right? And the decision on how to pass and how to operate the pass and the timing is also done by the AI in the car, right? It's important to understand that this is not remote controlled, right? There's no joysticks. As soon as the race starts, the students take their hands off the laptops and then the cars drive themselves entirely.
Right. It goes back to that fully autonomous aspect of this whole competition. So
now, we've been doing this for 3 years already, and we've accumulated a good number of records. One of the ones I like to refer to is the land speed record for an autonomous vehicle.
Okay.
So we went to the largest piece of concrete in North America, which is the Kennedy Space Runway.
Okay.
And we set the land speed record with the Italian car Team Polyneuth, right? Now they have Michigan State University and University of Alabama participating.
Okay.
And they reached 192.2 miles per hour going in a straight line. But the fastest overtake between 2 AI cars was 174 miles per hour.
So, and this is kind of just part of a history of innovation in car racing. I mean, you and I were talking before. This carbon fiber was created as a race car innovation, for example. Where do we, Christophe, Eric, this question goes back to you. Where do we hope to take this now that we've established this through, starting in 2021? Where do you want to see this go in the future? What other innovations or revolutions could come out of this?
I'll take that question, and before answering, I'll make some more advertising for our country. Because it's part of the answer to the question that you just asked. So Belgium has a couple of sovereign wealth funds, amongst which SFPIM, which also owns SAPCA and SONACA. That there is no plane in the world that flies without those components. We also have LRM, which is the Limburgse Reconversiemaatschappij. Few people know that that company that also owns Dronepoort, they actually deliver the steel for this truck of the Tesla. What's the name again? This big Tesla truck.
The Cybertruck.
The Cybertruck. So it's Belgian materials in there. And in the south we have a Wallonie Entreprendre who are also known because they own Van Herstal, which is one of the most advanced weaponized systems manufacturers. Now, why do I bring these things forward? Is because, and lastly, also FPIM, but also the governments, are very big investors in the insurance business. We'll go directly back when we start talking why autonomous AI is important for insurance. I'm going to hand that question back to Mark in a second. So, where do you take this? What we know, and the CEO and the president, Paul Mitchell, says it often, so from the EIC, so actually Mark is boss. He also reports it to the board all the time. People are very good at moving at slow speed. Human beings are very bad at moving at high speed. Now, what we need to make sure is that when you look around this entire show, a lot of things here, it's actually very slow speed. Now, if you want to get into manufacturing more efficiency, knowing that labor participation is going down, you need to master high speed. This initiative is all about autonomous, very high speed. The moment you control that, you control all the rest. Because it's easier to place something down than to speed it up. And everybody who is an engineer and in innovation knows that. You know, at a certain moment you say your cap, and we said we are going to go above 70 miles an hour. Everything above 70 miles an hour, that's our playground. That is where we are. Now, this brings me back to the insurance part, which I want to hand over to Mark to talk about what we are doing with black boxes, product insurance, because I think a lot of the people watching are going to be super interested. While what we are doing is actually, it's nice to have the fastest robots on Earth and have 400 PhDs working on this and a lot of military applications. But from actually when the world becomes fully autonomous robots, what does that mean for the insurance business, which by the way, guys, it's 4% of the gross domestic product. If something goes wrong there, you feel this. So Mark, I would like you to elaborate a little bit on that, to take a little bit away just from the robot aspect.
Yeah, sure. I can speak on that briefly. I mean, when you look at an autonomous vehicle, there's a couple of things to consider. First of all, the fact that there are two main components, a robotics platform and a software platform. And if you're able to split the AI driver from the robotics platform, you're essentially able to have any company provide the AI driver and then another company provide the robotics platform, meaning that you can create black box technology that doesn't infringe on the IP of the autonomous technology. And that would allow, for example, insurers to do a root cause analysis of what went wrong in a crash without having to mess with the autonomous mobility provider of that car. You could also find lots of scenarios where, in case of high-speed encounters where a risk happens, the AI driver could take over and actually prevent the human from getting into a crash.
Sure.
Or taking it even in the future, you could see, let's say, almost like a superintendent AI driver that would take over the other AI driver if it sees it, glitching or actually going out of control or doing something unexpected. But I really want to send it back to Christophe to talk a bit about my Flanders and about all the stuff that happens with talent, because one of the most important parts of the IAC, as a not-for-profit, is getting STEM talent and getting the next generation of young children, young kids, right, who want to get into technology but don't really know how.
Yeah.
Give them a path and give them a vision. And I mean, Flanders has an amazing amount of students, of universities that actually do that.
Perfect topic
Absolutely.
to wrap this
And
thing
there's
up
something
on.
that we
talk about gaming too, because one of the other tracks that we are working on is to actually race against the robots in a gaming environment.
Yeah.
Belgium is big in gaming, but
So that STEM indeed for the government, for the Flemish government, but also the federal government is extremely important just to make sure that we keep that edge compared to neighboring countries, but also within Europe, that we have that engineering schools and those skills that are necessary in order to really push things forward. And that's basically that's been the policy for the last 20, 30 years, Chris, and it's going to continue to be the policy. So there's going to be a lot of, for instance, what's happening with the Indy autonomous racing, these are things, also gaming, entertainment. It's not only about that. It's about the skill set that you have behind it, and make sure that people are attracted to learn those skills, and whatever works basically. So that it can attract and it can stimulate and accelerate those kind of development of skill sets, and that's basically what the government wants to do. And we have a lot of budget for that. So that's something that we really want to maintain, because that makes a difference. Unfortunately, Chris, in Belgium, that part of Europe, we don't have oil. We don't have
we have beer and chocolate.
LNG. Yeah. So what we have is brains.
Yeah.
And we just got to make sure that we keep those brains in mint condition. And that's basically how you do it. So,
yeah.
So a lot of research projects, as Eric mentioned, a lot of funding available for R&D, and making sure that people are aware of it and attracted to do that. So make it challenging, make it clear how it's going to change the future.
So
make it relevant.
It's a story of talent. It's a story of innovation, as you said earlier on, Eric. It's a story of friendship as well. I like seeing how this partnership has evolved. I appreciate all three of you gentlemen jumping on here today at Automate Live. Where can people continue to follow this journey?
Yeah, I'll start with the India Autonomous Challenge. It's very simple. It's indiaautonomouschallenge.com. We'll be live streaming our race on September 6th, so make sure to tune in, and I'll give it to Christophe to give the link for Flanders.
Absolutely. If you want to know more about Flanders, I'd say investinflanders.be will be the place to discover what we have as an ecosystem. So, and specifically on AI, we do have a lot to offer. So maybe, it's worth your while to visit that.
Excellent. Well, Christophe, Eric, Mark, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you,
We'll
Chris.
be right back to close out the show for the day here at Automate Live. Cheers, folks.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
A3 has had a huge impact on the automation industry, and I benefited through my company, General Motors, who used that information, that association, to further develop and advance robotics technology. A3 brought together all of the different supplier companies which could deliver the technology. The human capital, the people that knew how they operated and could work with them, and it had a big positive impact on the success of General Motors, and clearly it had a big positive impact on many other companies and the industry as a whole.
All right, what an incredible day it has been here. Day 3 of Automate Live. Again, I'm Jana Martin, and I'm joined here with Chris Lukey. Chris, how has Automate 2024 been so far?
It's been hectic in a good way. Here's what I like about day 3 is that on day 3, I've kind of checked off a lot of my must-dos, and I get to start learning some things I didn't necessarily expect to pick up on while I was here. And I have one that sticks out today.
Tell us.
Well, it was the humanoid robot panel.
Amazing.
Very well executed. Pretty much every big name in humanoid robotics right now. Agility Robotics, you've got Boston Dynamics. Great panel with executive leadership across the board. What struck me was very early on in the conversation and throughout the whole discussion, the topic that they kept coming back to was safety, the safety of humanoid robots, because, you know, when you've got an AMR, for example, something that low to the ground, runs around carrying a pallet, you know, if that shuts down, you know, it's just going to stop there, right? You've got to take into account all of the physics of basically a robot that's standing up. And that's one of the big questions around humanoid robots, especially as, you know, let's say they get into an application where they're in our everyday lives at some point. I loved Melanie Weiss, I think, was the first person to bring it up with agility. She talked early on about, hey, we really need to, we need to keep safety front and center in all of this. So that was one of my biggest takeaways from day 3 here at Automate.
And we're really excited that panel, that we were able to host that panel, partially because we're going to be hosting a humanoid event actually in the fall. It's going to be all about humanoids, so go to automate.org and check that out. My favorite thing though today, Chris, started at the beginning of the day. You were there as well. The Women's Empowerment Forum.
Yes.
We had an incredible panel of female leaders from the industry, ABB, our own Deb Kling was there, Adi Leviathan from 3M, and many others there, just sharing kind of their journey through this industry as females, and it was sold out, and it was really just an uplifting way to start the day out here, day 3 at Automate.
It was great. One of my favorite events of the whole conference. Yes, it was bright and early, 7:30 a.m., and if you know Automate, you know there are a lot of events that take place on Tuesday night here. So I was really impressed with the crowd that made their way out there. And, you know, as a male in the industry, I want to encourage fellow males, fellow allies, these events are for you as well, to understand how we can all create a more inclusive, equitable, and diverse workforce. I was really impressed. There was a good amount of male representation there as well. Individuals out there looking to learn and figure out, hey, how can I be more a part of the solution to drive things forward, not only just by attending an event like this, but what are the ways I can be a leader in a regular basis to make that type of thing happen.
And that's just what we're going to do more of in the future, more inclusion, more diversity here at Automate and at A3. Don't forget, tonight we've got the Engelberger Awards coming up. If you already have a ticket for that, lucky you. The day is not over. The week is not over. We'll be back here tomorrow. Student Tour Day, one of the biggest days here at Automate. So it's going to be a busy day. Again, on Thursday, we're going to have more great interviews here at the desk. We will have the Engelberger Award winner, at least one of them, will be joining us, as well as a few folks from NVIDIA. So we're excited to be back here on Automate Live tomorrow. Don't miss it. Check out automateshow.com for any information you need to know about the show, schedules, locations, etc. And all of the information you want to know about the Association for Advancing Automation is at automate.org. Once again, I'm Jana with A3. I'm really stoked to be here with Chris this week, and we'll see you again here tomorrow.
See you for day 4.